Paul stayed on the island of Malta for 3 months after the ship he was on wrecked while traveling to Rome. Paul healed people who were sick and shared the good news about Jesus with them. The people on the island were grateful for Paul's help. Finally, Paul and the other prisoners got on another ship and continued their journey to Rome. When the ship arrived in Rome, many people came to meet Paul. He was still a prisoner, but instead of going to jail, Paul was allowed to live by himself in a house. A soldier stayed with him to guard him. On his 3rd day in Rome, Paul asked the Jewish leaders to come talk to him. Paul told them, "I haven't done anything wrong. The Jews made me a prisoner in Jerusalem and handed me over to the Romans. The Romans wanted to let me go free, but the Jews objected. So I had to ask to speak to Caesar, the most important ruler in Rome. Still, I haven't done anything wrong." The Jewish leaders had not heard any reports about Paul doing wrong, but they wanted to hear more about what he believed. They did know that Paul was a Christian, and they knew that many people did not agree with the teachings of people called Christians. So, the leaders agreed on a day to meet with Paul. On that day, even more leaders came to hear what Paul had to say. Paul taught all day about God's kingdom. He pointed to the scriptures, the law, and the Old Testament prophets to explain that Jesus is the Messiah. Some of the Jewish leaders agreed with Paul, but others didn't. For 2 whole years, Paul stayed in the house and welcomed everyone who wanted to hear about Jesus. He talked about God's kingdom and about Jesus. He shared the good news of salvation. Many people listened to Paul's words and believed in Jesus. Some were Jews and others were not. The people were filled with joy and hope because they found new life in Jesus. Paul never stopped preaching about Jesus. Even while he was a prisoner, he wrote letters to different churches to encourage them and remind them about God's love. Paul helped people and prayed for them. He trusted in God, and the good news spread throughout Rome and beyond. Being a prisoner in Rome did not stop Paul from sharing his faith. He continued to share the gospel even when people disagreed. The message about Jesus seems foolish to some, but everyone who trusts in Jesus will be saved.